Good day. I'm busy here at our church and I'm moving a few stuff around for this coming Friday, Good Friday. Probably one of the most important religious holidays of Christians. And while I was walking through the empty church, I just thought of how many people will be willing to come to church on this Friday. How many people will be willing to push everything else aside in their life and sacrifice 1 hour of the long weekend for church, for God? Not many. And that made me think of two passages in the Bible, passages that describes Jesus, that tells his disciples who will betray him. In the first passage, in the book of Matthew, he says, the one that will betray me is the one that puts his hand into the dish with me. The one that reaches into the bowl with me. And then Judas reaches into the bowl with Jesus. Now in those days they also had something similar to table manners that we have today. If you and somebody else reach for the same object on the table, you normally would pull your hand back and give the other person the first opportunity to help himself. And it was the same in those days. But Judas, with his actions, actually communicates that he doesn't take Jesus into consideration. He actually pushes Jesus' hand aside. He puts Jesus on the same level as him, and he doesn't acknowledge him as God. How many times in your and my life do we push Jesus aside? Just shove God aside because we don't have time for him, because we don't acknowledge him, like this coming Friday. We can also be called Judas. Judas, because we betray God every single day. We don't take him into consideration. But then there's the second passage, which Jesus tells his disciples that the one that will betray him is the one that he will give a piece of bread to. And then he takes the piece of bread and he gives it to Judas. What does his actions communicate to us in John? It communicates to us that Jesus takes Judas into consideration. Jesus also gives a piece of bread to Judas, just like he gave it to Peter, just like he gave it to all the other disciples. He doesn't skip Judas. He gives to him the same love, the same forgiveness, the same grace, even if he knows what Judas is going to do. He gives to him forgiveness. And then it's very interesting that all the blind people that Jesus healed, all his disciples, nobody calls out in public and says that he is innocent. Only Judas. Judas says that he betrayed innocent blood. But what he didn't realize is that that blood also made him innocent. You and me can also be called a Judas. We betray God. We shove God aside in our lives and we don't have time for him. But then God reaches out to each one of us. He says to us, here's a piece of bread. Here is my son that I'll sacrifice for you because I love you. May you experience something of the strange love of God for you this coming Friday. And may you realize that God didn't give up hope on you, but that he still reaches out to you in spite of everything you do wrong in your life, in spite of every time you push or shove him aside, because he forgives you. And may you be grateful and thankful and come to church this Friday and celebrate His forgiveness for you. Till next week.